Hello. I want to talk today about Morpheus life coaching, and how Brian, the owner of Morpheus life coaching, has helped me personally, my personal journey, how he's improved my mental state, which has improved sleep patterns, eating, and also it has had a massive impact. If I could just break it down, I've been under counsellors since I was 13 years old, and they always want to get to the root of the problem, the root of the problem, the root of the problem. And before I met Brian, I was in a lost state of mind, a very lost state of mind, and I didn't think my life could get any better. I thought, you know what, I'm going to have to live with these demons. Now, what I didn't even know what life coaching was, and you know, I thought, you know what, nothing else has really worked. Let's give this a go. I was throwing paint at the wall at that point, and see if it will stick. And I had one session. I've had two now, but after one session, I felt something that no counsellor's ever done. Well, what the difference is with counsellors and I can't say life coaches, because you know I honestly wouldn't go to any other life coach. But the difference between counsellors and Brian is counsellors want to take you back to whatever traumatic event, and there's not normally just one. It doesn't even have to be a traumatic event, but they take you back to the negative. They focus and zone in on that negative. Brian, as a life coach, he takes you back, but briefly, and he wants to know you there's nothing that you have to give him something to go off of, and it's very brief. You talk about the negative very briefly, and you know, he'd be writing down, and you know, this chart thing he was doing, and you know, it confused me at first, but once you give him that first little inkling and you just start talking, doesn't have to, just and what he will do is he will do this chart. We'll get to that in a minute, and rather than stay on the negative, he'll work to move you forward. Okay, so that happened. This is probably, maybe, you know, you won't get it all from one session, because it's, you know, depending on how complex of a person you are. You might do, you might not. But you can get a general idea of why you've become the way you've become and why you have a barrier. And then immediately, once you identify what that barrier is, immediately Brian's there saying, well, we're going to break this barrier, this is how we're going to do it, and there is no limit. On the second session, because I was a little bit more complex, I figured out the barrier. Well, Brian figured out the barrier, and started to work on how it was to be broken. And I couldn't visualise anything past this imaginary barrier that you create, just above your comfort zone, is how Brian explained it to me. And then as we started smashing through that barrier, and he gave me a lot of ideas with business, and we really focused in on the positives. This is the thing, we go back to, he doesn't even ask you to go back to a traumatic experience. You talk about whatever it is that you want to talk about, why you're there, what you're hoping to get from it, and he will go off of that and pinpoint why your mannerisms have changed, and adapted to whatever trauma it was or whatever problem there is, and where you've limited yourself. Then you break through them limits, and honestly, the man can make you feel like you can do anything. Once you realise that barrier is something that you've created, you can destroy it. And I left the second session. I left feeling, it sounds really cheap, $1 million. it's still a work in progress. You know, these things you can't. For me, I can't just have 1 session, 2 sessions. It's gonna be an ongoing thing. But the more sessions you have, the less the first negative you came up with is a factor. It's no longer a factor. You then start talking about your future, and that is something that counsellors and people in the mental health profession and stuff like that don't really talk about. They do it the wrong way around. Okay, so what do you want to do in the future, and then back to that negative. Whereas Brian is, yeah, there's the negative, but what do you want to do in the future? And that is incredible. That is incredible, and the ideas. It's almost like you have somebody in your brain that has the same enthusiasm as you about yourself, and it's very, very strange, and about what you want to do. And honestly, like I said, I didn't know what life coaching was, and now there wouldn't be. Somebody tells me they're a life coach, I honestly would not give them the time of day, because Brian is the only life coach. Morpheus Life Coaching is the only company. You couldn't pay me to go to someone else, because I know for a fact I wouldn't get the results. And I'm going to go back to the chart that I was very confused as to what he was doing. And how many of you guys can actually turn around and say that when you've gone to a counselling appointment, you can physically see your progress growing on a piece of paper? And this chart is basically areas of your life that are a problem, that you want to improve. And with each session, and this is the thing about having multiple sessions, you see, you can even go to Brian if you're not in a negative mindset. You don't have to need any form of counselling or anything. You can see growth. You can see your results in black and white on this almost pie chart type of thing. And the Scientology behind it is incredible. You actually see your own progress manifest into a material. It manifests itself onto a bit of paper, and there is no limitation. There is no stopping point. There's no plateau. There's no nothing. Honestly, no counsellor, no medical professional has ever made me feel like I can do anything. Envision yourself. If I say to any one of you, you're going to be a millionaire one day, you'll tell me to go forth and multiply. You can't fathom that. Brian said it to me on the first session. Could just about see it. Second session, yeah, I'm halfway there. I can see it. Third, fourth session, I'll be able to taste it. And eventually, one day, I will be a millionaire, and I will do it. And I'm standing in front of this camera right now. If I didn't think I could be a millionaire, I wouldn't be saying it. I don't have, there's nothing that says that I had to say that. So this is my personal beliefs, and then beliefs would not have been, the doors were shut on them beliefs. Brian works to open them doors, and then you walk through them. That is exactly what he does, and I don't want to know any other life coach. That's a fact. That's a fact.